Hello, I'm Coach Iryna, and today we have our Paid Forward Talks. Let me tell you very quickly what is Paid Forward Talks. It's a coaching call where everyone is free to attend, but if something has changed for you, if you had a nugget of wisdom that was helpful, please pay it forward to someone else by sharing these talks that we have at the Life Coach University, by helping other people in any way you can. And this way we can reproduce the goodness and increase the goodness that we have in the world and everyone needs right now. So I'm Coach Iryna. I am a coach for the sandwich generation, for the people who are squeezed between the needs of their own families, children, careers, and at the same time they're taking care of they older parents and the parents who are at the stage where they have the cognitive decline. And one of the myths that we have about being a caregiver is the myth of the self-care. And I want to talk a little bit why it is a myth. If you are a caregiver and you have searched for some information, how to make it better, what can you do to help your family, your loved ones in the family that require your attention. And I'm pretty sure that you have found a lot of specific information, what needs to be done if you take care, let's say, of the small children, and what needs to be done if you're taking care of the elder citizens, senior citizens, elder people with the cognitive decline. And there would be like a very specific instruction. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. And this is what you do because this is how it affects the person you're taking care of. And please don't do that. Like, for example, there is like very common advice for the people who work with the dementia patients that you should not question if they remember something. So you shouldn't ask some questions. You should do some activities with them that would be helpful for them. And somewhere in the long list of all the advices how to take care of someone else, there would be like a small paragraph. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Take some walks outside, do some regular exercise, have a proper diet, stay hydrated, and take a relaxing bath, maybe even with with relaxing music and candles burning, which sounds very nice. However, if you are in the middle of taking care of someone and there is like so many things that has to be taken care of at the same time, this idea of taking a bath with the relaxing music sounds like a joke. This is what happened to me when I was in a situation of being the caregiver of my mother, who was a cancer patient, and she was in her last stage of life, and she had a cognitive decline due to the medications, all the medications that she had to take. And at the same time, my son was 2 years old. And it was the period of my life when I could sleep probably like 15 minutes at a time. And when I heard someone like, oh, you have to sleep proper time. Oh, you have to take a bath. Like, what kind of bath you talking about if I don't have time to take even a shower? Like, even a quick shower was a big challenge for me. And that experience, when I had as a caregiver myself, brought me to realization that there should be another way of taking to help caregivers taking care of others. And I should find the that way, and I want to help other people to go through this season of their life and not feeling hopeless and overwhelmed as I was. That was like a little intro why I'm doing what I'm doing. So uh, when I was in a situation as a caregiver, these kind of advices of how to take care of yourself sound like a joke. And now when I'm trying to dig back, like what is actually happening when we are being the caregivers? What is happening is we have a lot of resentment. We have a lot of resentment. Will sometimes it's a lot of anger, especially when you're taking care of your parents. There is a lot of anger, and then when there is an anger, then it follows by the guilt, because it's your parent, you're taking care of your parent, it's the person whom you have known and loved all your life, and all of a sudden you have so much anger and hatred, and it's just wrong. And that's why we feel guilty. And that guilt goes into a spin of self-judgment. And that line between anger or resentment, guilt, self-judgment becomes the loop. We're going then when we're judging ourselves for the bad children we are, then we go back, but I should be loving my parent and be gentle and have all these nice and fuzzy feelings, but I'm angry, which is, or I'm resentful, which is wrong. I feel guilty, and then I'm going to self judgment. So, when in the midst of all of that, because this is when the time when we start looking for the help for advices, and we're given advice, go and take a warm bath with relaxing music and candles. What, why that doesn't happen? Let's say you do have this half an hour for the bath. Why it doesn't help? It doesn't help because when you get in the bath and you turn on the relaxing music and you um, start the candles, and it's all romantic and relaxing environment. However, you're not getting relaxing because why? Because while you're sitting for this half an hour in this bath with candles and music, you keep self-judging. You keep telling yourself how you are acting in the wrong way at the time when you should be different. So let's think how the whole thing can be turned around. Why do we have this anger and resentment? Let's address that first. The anger and resentment. If we break apart the whole experience and what happens before we start feeling anger and resentment, there is usually something that we are telling ourselves, and it's the thoughts which go around the theme of things are not happening the way that we want them to happen. Things should be different, but they are not. Uh, my resentment was my mom, and actually, I had a very good, close relationship with my mom. We were very good friends. So my mom should be this nice and understanding and um, kind person that I have known her all my life, and all of a sudden she's not. So she should be different, but she is not. And my expectations, things that I was brought up with, in my life that when I have my family, when I have little children, my mom would be on my side. She will be helping me. And this is something that we've discussed at her was here a lot. And this is something that she wanted to have. This is how she, both her and me, we wanted how things to be, and they are not. So that's another biggest disappointment. Um, then when I am in that state of I am being very angry and resentful towards my mother, and then I feel guilty. And why do I feel guilty? Because I should be nice to my mom. I should not feel all these scary feelings towards her. I should not have thoughts, why does it happen to me? I should not be so resentful about the fact that I'm her caregiver because, come on, this is my mom. This is my uh, the most important person in my life. This is the person whom I love so much. I cannot be resentful to her, but I am. I'm not fulfilling my own expectations whom I should be if I am her daughter and I chose to be her caregiver. And as a side note, I did choose to be her caregiver. It's not something that fell on me because I didn't want her to be left alone. I didn't want her to be somewhere in some facilities that she probably would not be taking a good care, because that was happening outside the United States, where this whole system of taking care of the hospice patients is different, basically non-existent. So I chose to be her caregiver because I was understanding that that would be the best option for my mom. And I did want to provide her the best. And if it was the end of her life, I wanted that to be the best possible time. And I wanted her to die in dignity. So that was my choices. It's not like someone made me to do that. However, making my choices as a good daughter, I had this crazy anger and hatred, and then judging myself because things didn't turn out the way how I want them to happen. And then, which brings me to judgment, of what a bad person I am, or why I was probably not as um, kind, or I snapped, or I showed my disappointment, I showed my frustration to her. And I'm thinking, telling myself that I shouldn't have done that because I was understanding that she was in that condition which she couldn't do any different, and I couldn't expect any different for her. So after all of that, in all this drama, if someone would tell me you need to take a bath with candles and relaxing music, what would happen? I would take a bath, turn on the music, start the candles, and keep on judging myself. So that relaxed bath would turn to me as a bath of self judgment. So, how should we take care of ourselves while we are taking care of other people? The taking care, when I was thinking about a lot about this whole thing with the bath and candles and why it happens and why we come to this point of self judgment that we continue doing while sitting in the bath, then it dawned on me that the ultimate act of self care is stopping judging ourselves. being kind to ourselves. So if we look back to the beginning of this um, chain of starting with the anger and resentment that end us at the self-judgment, can we not be angry that things go the wrong way? Probably we can. Probably we can if we have this Zen state of mind that whatever's happening around me is not disturbing me and I'm not getting angry. However, I hear you asking me right now, if you listen to this talk, you're asking me right now, like, but how is it possible not to be angry or not to be resentful when things go that wrong way? Um, it might be hard. It might take time to get to that point when you take it easy. However, what we can do is start with forgiving ourselves at the moment when we get angry and resentful. Because when we think of the situation, like, let's say my mom woke me up for the fifth time at night, and she woke up and she forgot while she wanted to wake me up. She didn't need anything from me. And it's very easy to get angry. And instead of blaming myself, like, well, I got angry and I shouldn't have done that because she is she forgets what she wanted, or maybe she was scared or whatever. I did get angry. And after I realized that I'm angry, I can forgive myself. Yes, I got angry because it was the middle of the night. It was the fifth time when she woke me up, and I haven't had enough sleep, and I'm tired. And when someone wakes me up, I am angry again. I'm angry. This is probably the normal reaction in the abnormal situation that I end up being. And that's okay. I'll try better next time. But right now, this is where I am, and I forgive myself. And when I can forgive myself at that moment that I did get angry towards my mom, then I can go away from the guilt, and I can go away from the self-judgment. And when when I pour the water in that bath and start the candles, I have already forgiven myself. So when I am getting into the bath to relax or go for a walk or do all these things that are being recommended to caregivers to do as a way of taking care of themselves, I'm not going to be judging myself for all this time when I'm walking or soaking in the bath. And this is how I will get relaxed. And this is how I'm taking care of myself. And now, if you tell me, but what if I don't have time for that walk, or what and I don't have time to take a bath? I hear you. Let's think what we can do. Let's think of self care not as a way of doing something, not as an action. Because in all these examples that I mentioned before and the examples that are usually given to the caregivers, the self-care is an action. Go for a walk, drink plenty of water, sleep at least 8 hours or as much as you can, like things like that. You do something. What I have suggested is think of the self care as a thought. What can I do right now to be kind to myself? What can I do now to take care of myself? When I'm in the midst of pandemic, kids at home, school children at home, I am working from home, I have pressing deadlines at my work, and I'm taking care of my parents, and my parents drive me nuts. And if we just stop for a second and ask ourselves, what can we do? What can I do right now to take care of myself? Maybe it's taking a deep breath. Maybe it's get away from the computer, just close computer and be in the room for 5 minutes on my own without any noises. Maybe it's taking a cup of tea. Maybe it's having a glass of water because I've been so busy I didn't have time to drink anything. So if we think of it like, what can I do now? How can I take care of myself? Maybe it's something as reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, reminding ourselves why we chose to have the life that we have. Remind ourselves what brings you joy and actively look for that. In the times when I was squeezed between the care of my little child and my mother, I was reminding myself why I was doing that. And also, I was actively seeking joy in my little baby. And it could be anything, it could be just a hug that he would give me when he wakes up in the morning. That's joy. So, if you need a permission to put aside all these lists of things that you need to do to take care of yourself, you have it now from me. As long as you promise me to be kind to yourself and ask yourself, what can you do for yourself right now? And what can you do yourself right now that brings back us to the what we started with, the idea of paying it forward, that actually that can be another act of self-care. When you do something for the others, just for the because you want to help someone, because you can help someone, maybe that's your act of self-care that would ground you and remind you that everything is not so bad and doomed when, well, let's be honest, it happens when you're taking care of so many people in your life. And um, another thing that I wanted to tell you, that I was, when we were deciding for the topic of this conversation for the Life Coach University, that was almost a month ago. It was before the world went crazy and a big war in Ukraine started. And I have to admit that for some time I was hesitating. Should I continue with the talk that was planned before? Or should I address things which are more important right now related to our own experiences of this war? And everyone, at this day, I think we cannot say that someone doesn't have that experience. People experience this war on different levels. Someone who is in Ukraine and living that, living in the place that's being bombed and living in the shelters. Someone who is in the active military defending their land. Someone who is like me living outside the country, but having my people there, the people whom I love there, and trying to help from the long distance and keep in touch and um, being afraid sometimes of the calls that are not being answered. If I call someone or if I message someone and I don't have a reply, then there is like the whole crazy thought spin happening, like why they're not replying. There's also people who are not actively involved. I mean, not actively involved is the wrong word. People who are not there and who are not direct ties to that situation. Like some friends that I have in the United States who are not connected in Ukraine in any way. However, they want to help and they actively find the ways to help, like as a ways of making donations, sending supplies, um, accepting the refugees, and doing all kinds of things. Which makes that, yes, this war affected all of us. And we need to be strong to get through that. And then when I was preparing for this talk and I was thinking like what would be like should I go with the talk that I have planned or should I change it to something pressing? And then I realized that actually this whole idea of the self care applies to any situation, even if you are not in the stage where you're actively taking care of your elder parents with cognitive decline. When we are helping someone else, when a situation which is not normal and scary is happening, and we are focusing so much to help others in whatever ways we are helping, we also need to have this self-care. We need to take care of ourselves so that we would be able to keep going, to keep helping other people, to keep working and making money that we can send, donate to the, let's say, to the people who accept refugees and help the refugees, or to send money to for the medical supply, for the humanitarian aid. There's like so many other ways to help that requires actually money, and we need to create that money. We need to work, continue working, which is very hard because our mind is preoccupied with what is happening there. It's preoccupied with everything that we see in the news, and it can be hard to shift from all that horror that we see on the news back to our normal, so-called normal life where can work and take care of our families. And it's actually the situation when it's good to remind ourselves that what can I do today to help myself not to get into that loop that I'm not doing enough. I am guilty of not doing enough. I'm guilty because I'm here and not there. I'm guilty because I cannot be there for some reasons and uh, join the military to defend the country, and then get into the loop of the self judgment. It's actually, if you think of it, it's actually the same loop. We go from anger and resentment of the situation that is involving in front of us. And we're thinking of ways to help. And there is always, no matter how much you help, there is that sense that I'm not doing enough, that there might be something else that can be done. And from there, we go to I am not doing enough. I am guilty of not doing enough. I need to do more. And that brings us back to that self judgment. I'm not good enough. And the way to deal with that is actually exactly the same as we have discussed before. I'm angry and it's okay. I'm angry because of my understanding of the situation, because things are not happening the way I want them to happen, because my life is unfolding not the way how I expected it unfolding at this stage, and that makes me angry, and that's why I'm resentful. And we can accept and forgive ourselves, and forgiving ourselves, let those emotions happen, is the ultimate act of the self-care. And this is what I want to leave you with, that the ultimate act of self-care is letting all the emotions happen that are happening, and forgiving yourself that for the all the emotions, how scary they might be. And when you process that and you feel better, go and do something nice for someone else. I'm Iryna Ishchenko. I'm the life coach at Iryna, lifecoachirina.com. And I will be looking forward to talking to you again. Bye.